Time has come once again to speak as witches and wizards do. I'm Daniel Dubois,
I'm Michaela Gaffinstone.
and we're your hosts for Think Like a Wizard podcast. Welcome to Season 3, Episode 7, The Incidentals. And so Michaela has something exciting to share. I'll let you
It
go.
amused me. Daniel and I were talking just before the podcast, as we do, and I have a deck of Dragon Oracle cards. And I was just shuffling them as we were talking, and then I stopped and picked one, and this is what it says. We are forewarning you of an important event, human child. Stay aware and trust the signs we are sending. Believe your own wise instincts. They are correct, and we are with you. And I thought, now, how perfect is that for this podcast?
Yeah, because this episode is entitled The Incidentals because we're going to be discussing the same way I said it to Michaela, the human cost, but not as dramatic as that. Just you're like, you have events that lets you attach meanings to things or lets you have these attachments. And what we're going to discuss is how, what you'll see or might even expect in a spiritual awakening. And I don't know if that explanation makes sense, but we're going to start and you'll see what we're talking about.
Well, I like to go with synchronicities. That's the
Yeah.
first thing, because you'll see them more and more. Now, were they always there? Probably. Did you pick up
Oh,
on
right.
them? No. So what happens is you can often start to see more and more things happening that you sort of can catch yourself wondering, was that just a coincidence again? And how many coincidences are you having later?
Mm,
I would argue that are they really coincidences or is it a synchronicity? Are you being pointed in a certain direction? I had some of that yesterday where I was actually at a bookstore. My husband was signing his books
mm,
and I went walkabout and I'm looking at various books and I was drawn to two in particular. I went through a few that I very quickly discarded. And then there were two I was really pulled to. And one of them I noticed was written by someone who lived just a town or two away from where my mother was in Wales,
mm.
and a small town, Machynlleth. And this guy was writing this book all about witchcraft in great detail from there. And the foreword was by Colin Wilson. Now, this is somebody whose stuff I read when I was a teenager, like years
Right.
ago. And I thought, wow, that's interesting, both in the same book. And then there was another one that was all on the subject of dragon magic. And I thought,
Mm.
well, now, isn't this interesting? And I took the two books and went and sat down with them. And yeah, they were actually meant for something I'm working on right now. And I could see the point. I could see why I had them. Now, I wasn't consciously looking for them. I didn't know they were there, actually. I didn't know they'd been written, but I found them. So, coincidence? Okay, you could say that if you like, but if you are on a spiritual path, I'm going to say you know better than that. So
Yeah.
that's one way that you could say there are incidental effects of the path. You find yourself becoming more attuned to things and recognizing when something's happening. Like there are huge shifts. We've been talking about this all the way through the podcast. There's big changes. Things are not what they seem. They're also not what you ever thought they were. And that is a little bit different, right? Because we say, oh, I want things to go back to the way it was. Well, first of all, it can't. Secondly, it wasn't that way anyway. You just thought it was. But we recently had the shooting of a
Yeah.
CEO of a major health
Hmm.
insurance company. And what a fascinating response from the population. I saw no sympathy. I saw an awful lot of people gleefully saying, your claim has been denied and so on.
Yeah.
And you could look at that different ways, but I'm going to say, boy, do we have a big, big door opening up right now. And that was part of that door opening. I wouldn't wish it on anybody. However, this is how it was set up. This is
Mhm.
this is how it went. Now, what's opening from there? Lots, so much.
Yeah, it's an interesting event. Some of the jokes have actually gotten pretty funny, even though I'm not one to laugh at the death of others, but I also appreciate the irony in when people get their comeuppance.
Well, you see, that's the interesting thing, isn't it? I don't know how many people knew how mad they were at this
Oh yeah.
situation. And in fact, I did a live this morning talking with somebody about this whole event.
Hmm.
And we were basically saying, look, this is telling you in a timely manner to look at the insurance that you go for and look at where are the distractions, where are you
Yes.
being suckered in, and where can you choose differently? And I think that's what's happening now is we're being asked to choose differently. Everybody is being asked to choose differently, and that's going to show up in all kinds of ways in your
Yeah.
life, large and small.
Hmm. That's one of the things I thought too when I heard about it. It's the yeah, things are getting real,
Yep.
you know, in dramatic ways now, not just the subtle. Well, I mean, there's always been, but it brings me back to the idea that there's a very almost I don't know if this is actually the right term, but almost a schizophrenic view of what's going on right now. Like I said, for the elections, right? People voted right wing slash conservative up ballot, but they voted left wing liberal down ballot, where all the initiatives are.
Mm. Yeah, I think we've been given opportunities all over the place to literally choose differently is what keeps coming up. So, for example, you've seen the posts around, hey, I posted it,
Yeah,
of all the CEOs of the
yeah,
various companies and how much they get in a year. They don't earn it. It's not possible to earn it, but they get paid that much. And their responses have been to take down all the information off the
yeah,
internet and to hide and all this kind of thing. Okay, well, you can do that in the short term, but you cannot do that in the long term. You are being asked to do something differently.
yeah,
And right from the top on down, things have to change now. And the issue is being forced. Like it
yeah,
is absolutely being forced on so many levels, politically, insurance companies. I can't wait to see what happens to Big Pharma because that's going to be a doozy. The
yeah,
the food industry, look at Kellogg's. They
yeah,
ignored the what 450,000 people strong signature. They
hmm,
ignored it and said they didn't care. But then their shares started to plummet and their money
yeah,
goes down, and now suddenly they care. So, okay, they're going to have to, they're doing differently because basically they got caught with the pants down.
yes.
But are they are they doing things differently long term? And if they don't, I think there's going to be there will be a response to that in some way that's going to be uncomfortable, to say the
Well,
least.
that's the thing, right? I was listening to a video this morning, and they were talking about it's not that that CEO was shot was the trigger; it's the people's reaction to the murder, to the shot. That's making insurance companies pay out right now. People are finding their claims being accepted and their bills being paid. But these two guys were saying it's not the shooting, it's the reaction to the shooting. It's
Uh-huh.
how there was no pity for that guy, how no one cared, there was no warmth, there was no, you know,
None, not
none.
not a bean, not even for his family. Because my thought was, oh, his poor family must be,
Yeah.
devastated. And I was away for a few days. I
Mm,
was very busy, stuck in my head in work, and I
yeah.
didn't see the internet for a few days. And when I emerged and I saw it, I was like, whoa, wait, what happened? Holy smokes. And it was already well blown up by then, and all these reactions. And my first one response was kind of shock, right? Like I wasn't expecting to see that. And then I sat with it for a minute or two and I thought, well, oh yes, okay. This is a very clear message. This is so clear that you can either take it seriously and respond,
Right.
or cover it up and, slap a band-aid on it. We we are getting to a place where you cannot do that for any length of time. This
Well,
is
yeah.
spiritually, things are opening up, but it's all around. Every dimension there is that we have access to is opening up. Like it or lump it.
Yeah.
It's
Well, that's the thing, right? And that's the value, that's the importance of knowing who you are and understanding, you know, that things aren't what you think they are. Because as you know, the scramble and the aftermath of everything is going to be people are going to start trying to spin things in their direction, in their favor.
uh-huh.
While even, for lack of a better vocabulary, all the right-wing grifters got ratioed. You know, their videos in response got downvoted
Mm, okay.
because they're trying to say, "How dare you be angry? You know, how dare you celebrate the death of a CEO?" And a lot of the big names lost a lot of support for doing it.
Interesting. I didn't get that far. I didn't see that much, but it really isn't going to go how people think it is anymore.
No.
And you just got to get used to that idea. I think the key is to let go of
Mm.
what you think it ought to be, because whatever that is, it isn't.
Yeah, it's funny, and I think this episode, because I know at least one more thing on this episode that I was asked to talk about that I didn't actually say to Michaela because I didn't think about it at the time. But we are going. There's some stuff to be discussed. But one of the things, and I guess we might as well jump into it, is because Michaela already started with it, is the look at the signs. And I'll give you an example of my own case, right? So you've heard me talk about my twin flame.
Yeah.
Well, my twin flame was from Louisiana, but I had an obsession with Louisiana up until I met her. I mean, there's more to it, right? Like I always had this vision in my head of the silhouette of this person, but I always had an obsession with Louisiana. And I mean, yes, I have relatives who, you know, when the big split came and people got chased out and went to Louisiana, you know. But so I have relatives who have gone who went there. But that was never just my thing. It was just, oh, there's a place. I always looked at it, oh, there's a place in the States where there's French speaking people, you know, and they still maintain a French culture. But you know, I've gotten these kind of obsessions, if you will. Like I got obsessed with California, and I ended up. My sister moved to California, and I went up there for a few years in a row, constantly going there and learning all kinds of stuff I could learn in California. And then I ended up going to Hawaii. I had an obsession with Hawaii, and the trip to Hawaii was pretty interesting because generally when I dream, if there's a real setting, it's either where the city I grew up in or the town I also spent time growing up in and I live in now. Those are usually my only two settings. But
Hmm.
I can have fantasy settings, like unrealistic fantasy settings, like 'cause I can dream of being in outer space or being in a fantasy world or whatever. But when I was in Hawaii, that's all I dreamt about was Hawaii. Hawaii for me had this interesting, mystical at the end of the world, the edge of the world phenomena.
I'm showing the Ten of Wands.
Oh, the Ten of Wands, yeah.
Mhm.
So that's the end of the journey in your intellectual pursuits. The now your journey is complete and you come to fruition in your intellectual. That's
I'm
my
done.
basic understanding of the Ten of Wands, anyways.
I'm just going to sit here
Yeah.
and play with these cards while you talk, and every now
Yeah.
and then one is going to tell me to show it to you, and I will.
All right. So yeah, the Ten of Wands is basically like I don't have the cards memorized, but I know what the suits mean and I have a general idea of what their order is. So yeah, 10 is that you've come to the fruition in what you need to understand about the what that suit tells you. And the suit of the sorry, wands, right? You said
Yeah.
wands is about passion, sorry, not your intellect. Wands is about your passion because wands are related to fire. And so it's about the passions of the things you do. So whatever I'm talking about right now is peak passion. And it basically is, right? like I said, when I was in Hawaii, that's all I dreamt about. Even if I daydreamed, like you just sit there and your mind wanders, it was Hawaii. And I felt like I was on the edge of the world. But interestingly, I picked up two spirits in Hawaii.
Uh-huh.
One was a big water spirit that lived like so we went on a doing a whaling cruise, so you can go, check with the whales and that. And they do like they did, they did like a little ceremony before leaving. And I said, you know what? Let's use this ceremony. And what I got is like this huge presence of a manta ray, like huge, like, and it was like, okay, I accept the ceremony. I'll watch over you guys for this trip. It wasn't just a touristy, it became not just a touristy thing to do, to amuse the tourists. It suddenly became a real ritual.
Right.
And then it actually, it came with me for a year after actually it came and visited me, and it kind of sat in my roster of spirits that helped for a bit.
Uh-huh.
So I'm back now. And then on the way back, that's when I picked up well, that's the story I share in the beginning about sitting with a sky goddess on the plane. That was coming back from Hawaii.
Interesting. Okay.
It tends to
Uh-huh.
be a thing now. I tend to keep my eyes open whenever I go to a new place to see what the spirits are like.
Well, yeah, I can see that. Hmm.
Yeah,
So at this time, you have the Empress.
the Empress. I'm trying to remember what she does. I know.
The
Oh no, that's the High Priestess I'm thinking about.
Empress is the embodiment of Mother Earth, uh, the essence of the soft paw of matriarchy and mother of thousands in the physical world.
Mm, well, as I have been saying lately,
Hmm.
the divine feminine, and I've been made into a wielder of the divine feminine lately, and it's really showing.
Family is her concern, and all are her family. Her influence is hot house, fertile, and just as productive. Uh, she nurtures without regard to age or species and touches those in her purview with prosperity and bounty.
You-
Interesting. Hmm.
mm,
So relate that to what you were just talking about.
Yeah. Well,
Prosperity and bounty. Well, you got all those spirits that you're
hmm
finding, or they're finding you.
yeah.
Hmm.
Well, the one on the plane, like the one in the boat, whether or not it came looking for me, that's where we met.
Hmm.
The one in the plane came to meet me because I
Hmm.
was sitting on the plane and I had a seat to myself and people were loading like I was on the side because this is one of the big ocean, right, flying jets. So you got the three
Yep.
rows, three, no, you got yeah, the three columns, where you want to
Uh-huh.
put it, right? So there's two on the side, three in the middle. So I was
Yep.
on the side by myself and I was like, oh, is there someone else coming on who's going to be sitting next to me? Because people were loading, but no one was coming to the seat. And then I got a, kind of a present say, no, you're you're not going to be alone, but it's not going to be a person. And I'm like, all right,
Nice.
yeah. So when we were getting ready to lift off, then the presence was there beside me, and it was the way they talk about it, at least the way they were saying it in Hawaii, was an auntie or an uncle. Is the
Hmm.
gods and goddesses referred to as aunties and uncles. So if you're ever looking at actually the history of Maui, you know from Moana,
Yep.
it's an interesting story. It took me a while to figure out what was going on with Maui because I was like, well, if his mom had him and she cast him aside because she thought he was dead, and then his uncle picks him up, why didn't he just tell his mom that he was alive? But it's the uncle in the sense of it's a god that picked him up out of the water. So I had to kind of figure that out. But anyways, yeah. So that was she was on my journey. So that was kind of a thing. I think she wanted to see just how far my courage for flying could be pushed.
Hmm. And
Uh, I got reprimanded for not keeping and for doubting. Because it's like if you're with the sky goddess and you're afraid of falling out of the sky in a plane, are you really listening to the sky goddess with you? Or are you
hmm.
putting any faith in them?
Well, that's going to be a big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I think that speaks to knowing who you are and having a solid foundation too. Is
Yes.
the next question is where are you putting your faith?
Mm. But
Yeah.
to be fair, if I'm to believe her, She was messing around with the weather.
Okay, but I just mean generally.
Yeah,
Excuse me, not just in that instance, but it
yeah.
leads us to a bigger question, which is, where for the person listening to ask
Mhm.
as well, is where are you putting your faith and are you sure?
Well, that's the thing, right? Because at the time, like usually long flights, I'm fine with because you get bored. It's like, I haven't fallen out of the sky yet. Okay, whatever. Right. And then you start getting bored. But on short trips, I'm a terrible flyer because my brain doesn't get that time to sit down and relax and just act. It's like, it's, there's trips are like, if it's under like 45 minutes or less, it's like, okay, I don't have time to adjust to this.
Interesting. I did not know that about you.
Yeah, it's interesting. I've had some interesting flights. That one flying back actually from the, because you know how big those jets are, right?
Mhm.
Like when I flew to Hawaii, I thought we had landed, but we were still just circling. That's how stable the plane was. That's how stable the flight was. But on the way back, it was just like, if we could hit a turbulent, if the plane could shake, if it could feel like it felt like it was just sliding all over the sky instead of like, flying.
Mhm. I do know, yeah, I've had some
Yeah.
interesting flights myself over the years.
Mm.
I've
Although
flown.
my most interesting flight was a short 45-minute flight. We took off because I was coming back to where I live. And so we took off and like about 10 minutes in, the turbulence, sign comes on, turbulence, stay at your seat. We'll let and you get that, just stay in your seat. So when the turbulence sign, we'll shut the sign off, and you can go about what you're doing. The whole flight, turbulence. It never came off the seatbelt light.
Right.
We had dropped at one point so far that my feet came off the ground, started to go up. This was a small, twin engine thing.
Yep.
And then even when we were coming to land, the plane was like tilted.
Yeah. I do know.
Yeah.
I I once flew on an Air Vietnam flight that was literally we were in a storm, there was lightning,
Mm-hmm.
and the plane was dropping so much people were screaming.
Yeah.
It was quite an adventure, and I had kids on board with me.
Mm-hmm.
It was quite something. So yes, the feeling of insecurity in the air is significant. Even then, though,
Yeah.
can you get in touch with the place where your faith is? And I don't mean that, I don't necessarily mean
Right.
that sort of fervent praying that some people
Mm-hmm.
start to do. It's more, do you mean it? Like, do you know, do you
Mm-hmm.
know where you stand? Um, like, just do you know where you stand? That's what I'm getting.
Yes. Well, that's the thing, right? Like, so you drawing that card and that being there's wisdom to be had in this episode. It's actually a big one because at the time, right, I had no faith. And well, again, started off with the trickster, right? So you don't take for granted anything you're told because you learn either brings you to something else that you're not expecting, or it's to teach you a lesson. And that
This
one is,
one, this one, I'm showing you the pretty dragon.
yeah.
This one is the Ace of Pentacles.
Ooh. So the beginning journey of material success in the material world.
There you go. And was that flight a beginning journey to some
Well, it
kind of
did because
success?
it taught me something pretty interesting. It wasn't my last flight, but it was my second to last flight. Because my last flight was the one where the sky was turbulent the whole trip, and then we came. And that was my last flight that I've had. Yeah, we managed to tilt. The pilot got us level just as we were landing because we were coming
Mhm.
in. I'm like, oh, we're gonna cartwheel. That's awesome. You know, this was the one where even the normally I just look at the stewardesses and if they've got their stuff together. I mean, it doesn't say that there's not bad stuff happening, but if they have their stuff together, okay, I'll give myself hope. But even the stewardess on this flight was like, she was strapped in.
Uh-huh. Well, no,
Yeah.
that's wise though.
Yeah. So it was like, oh yeah, this is going to be an interesting flight.
Uh-huh.
But it did actually change my view on things. a few years later, I thought back on it. I'm like, well, if these spirits are working with me and they want me to do something and they need me to fly, well, then I have to accept that the flight's going to happen and it's going to be successful.
Okay. This is good. This is good.
So it's the, yeah, if you're asked to do something, then there has to be a certain amount of success. But this also being the spirit world, right? What their version of success is and what the material version of success is not necessarily the same thing.
I think also what we're getting at the moment all around us, and you really can't avoid it,
Mm.
is that ready or not, here we come.
Yes.
Change is happening, and it's undeniable, and people can panic and blame each other or blame things. You're wasting your time, you're wasting your energy. The question is, what are you going to work with? What wants to work with you?
Mm-hmm.
And what position are you going to take in all of this? Because this is not a time to choose sides. Because here's the thing, there are no sides.
Well, that's
It's
right.
it's like trying to pick out a bubble from a cauldron that's on boil. Which one are you going to pick? It doesn't matter. There's no correct one to pick per se, and I wouldn't have thought I'd say that, but okay, let's go with it. Um, it's not that there's a correct one, but you need to know what your position is, what your role is,
Well, yes.
what your purpose is, and what you're willing to do with that. Because as soon as you figure that out, you'll see all the things around you that you need to see. It's all there right now. It's all
Yeah.
happening.
And that locks in actually the episode, the meaning of the episode and the meaning of the title. So it's the signs around you that you didn't realize were signs. Like
Hmm.
to continue on, like when I did, as I keep saying, my work in the shadows, my invisible work, if I didn't know the person already I was working with, I would like either get a sudden obsession with a celebrity that looked like that person, or I would have a sudden obsession with something they were interested in, and then that would prep me for when I did work with them.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's like I got so my briefing for going in and then the debrief for after. But the briefing for going in would be like, I'm like, why am I suddenly obsessed with this? Because normally I wouldn't care less about this particular topic. So why am I interested in it all of a sudden, out of nowhere? So then I pursue it. When I figured out what was happening, then it was like, oh, okay, it's time to check this thing out. Okay, so jump into it, figure out what it is. So then when you show up and you meet the person that needs to be worked with, you'll know. But
Hmm.
that's kind of thing that I want people to start paying attention to. You're gonna have these things. There might be a song that haunted you your whole life, or that you've recently really taken an interest in it that you don't understand why you're so keen on it. You know, we will
Ah,
get to it.
yes.
Michaela's smiling, but Michaela knows what's coming.
I do. I know exactly where we're going. I'll let you do it. I was going to jump in and say it, but
Well, because you know, so Michaela and I were having a an off podcast, deep conversation, and I shared about the song "Puff the Magic Dragon." And I said, and I used the animated feature or the animated special that came from it, where they basically retell the story in the song, but they make it a little different. So when Jackie Paper comes to the time when Jackie Paper has to be courageous in the cartoon, Puff loses his courage. And I kind of said to Michaela, I'm like, this is what it's like, when I work with people. It's like I got to do all this stuff. I got to be the brave one. I've got to be the one, the powerful one to move everything through. But then when it's time for the person to cement what they learned from me, I lose all that. I lose all the power. I lose all that, and then I have to sit here and let whatever fate has in store go, while the other person has to show if they've learned or not. And so I lamented how I understand Puff because I know that feeling of what it's like when he gets there. Michaela also shared with me that she had a reaction to this.
I have a very different relationship, shall we say, with that whole thing. To me, um, the story is representative of abandonment,
Mm,
and the overriding emotion is bereft. Like it's a very tough story for me. And it's also the dragon is strong and tender
Mm.
and easily wounded and yet always there
Yeah.
until abandonment. So I have like oh my God, I used to cry every time I heard it when I was a kid, every single time. And for some reason, people kept playing it for me. I think they couldn't believe I kept crying, but
Yeah.
I did. And to me, dragons have always been something very special and important. And in fact, I was recently asked, one of those fun bio things at a place where
Hmm.
you work. I was asked recently, what did you want to be when you were 5 years old? And they
Yeah.
were referring, I think, to what kind of job did you want to have? First of all, let me just say, I think there's something rather twisted about wanting a job when you're five, because that's not really? Do you want to be working for somebody when you're five? It's an odd question to me. But my answer, I just decided to answer all their questions straight up. And I just said, well, I wanted to be a dragon.
Mm.
I'm still waiting to hear the response from that one, but that was what I gave them.
Yeah.
Because I didn't want to have a job. Like that wasn't in my mind, but I wanted to be a dragon. To me, that was like the ultimate thing. So we
Yeah.
have two very different versions of what Puff the Magic Dragon meant.
Yeah. But we both have that connection through it in the feeling of loss, but like the that feeling of Puff's wounding, I guess, if you want.
Yes, something really important was lost.
Yeah.
And we both have that. We just have your Achilles heel, if you will. The,
Mm.
the arrow for you was courage, and the one for
Hmm.
me was abandonment.
Yeah.
So,
And that's an example, right? Like, because I was going to say certain songs are going to have meanings for you. And you don't
mm,
necessarily, like, in this case, we have our definition of why Puff the Magic Dragon has the impact on us it does. But you might find yourself having songs have a certain impact on you that you didn't understand why, and it's only now that you're awakening that it makes sense to you, or it will make sense to you why you have that feeling.
mm. Actually, there's another song that just,
Yeah.
it's not a song even, it's an instrumental. I
Okay.
have to look it up afterwards, but um, Telstar by the Shadows. And that one used to freak me out. I would absolutely lose the plot when that came on. I did not like it. It made me very fearful. Um, yeah, that was a run and hide kind of sound. And I was tiny, like I was very little, but I really knew what I meant with that song. Like that was just there were no words, just straight up instrumental. I think it was a bunch of guitars even, and I love guitar,
Right.
but that particular sound was not okay. It was really not. I can't interpret that for you, but I can certainly remember it.
Mm. Well, that's the thing, right? All these things that have an effect on you, whether you know or not why, there's usually a reason for it. Like, sort of that, like, so, like, I think I said it when we were talking. I said, like, I was born brokenhearted, as
Right.
in I knew what was to be expected, and even as a kid, I couldn't figure it out. I just knew all the time I felt brokenhearted. It's not that I didn't
Mhm.
go through and have different emotions, but there was always that feeling. Well, I've gone past the event now, so I don't have that feeling anymore. But yeah, for decades, like just this weird feeling, like as if I was always been done hard by being about love. And I'm like, love at that time, love's never done me hard, but yet my whole existence was just that's how it was.
Yeah. And if you think about it, little kids will often, if you listen to
Hmm.
them, and I mean really listen to them, they'll often reveal a lot of interesting things that you might not be able to see or you might have forgotten. And they'll remind you, but you
Hmm.
have to be able to listen to them.
Yeah, it's
You're
yeah.
actually in a sea of incidentals right now. There's so many things going on that to not be able to see it is to, I think, willfully keep your eyes closed. Um, and if you're listening to this podcast, chances are that's not something you can do. Hopefully not anyway, because now is not the time for that. Stuff is coming whether you look at it or not. Um,
Yeah.
so what can you notice and what seems to be for you and what isn't? Because just because you can see it doesn't mean it's yours.
Right.
What, so that's where your intuition, your inner knowing, spending some time meditating even to see what comes in. And your meditation might be sitting cross-legged with your forefinger and thumb together going but
Yeah.
highly unlikely. That tends to be a Disney version. The actual meditating is get into the zone. Like, are you a runner? Do you like to go for walks? Even swimming? Anything that is repetitive and motion involved is a great place to meditate because your brain
Yes.
is free to actually just go where it needs to go. It can let things in because you're not having to focus on the thing you're doing. It's repetitive. So
Yeah.
that is meditating.
Actually, it's funny because you say that. And I think about, even like with the idea of like white noise or it's like some kind of consistent background noise. Like I think about how many clairaudient experiences I've had in the shower
Right.
because
You're
my
not
ears
really
are like,
thinking.
okay, this is your physical environment. This is the noise you're going to be hearing. So then it just drifts.
And you don't have to think about, okay, now I'm going to pick up the soap. Now I'm going to, you don't have
Yes.
to think about the steps. These are automatic. And that's typically, if you're someone who's interested to meditate and don't know how, great. Find something that's really automatic and repetitive and do that. And it'll be a lovely space for you to just, you'll suddenly realize, oh, wait, did half an hour go by? Did an hour go by? Like, oh, I forgot I was doing that. Or,
Yeah.
there's some kind of awakening at the end of it where you realize, oh, I zoned out. Well, yeah, okay, cool. That's a place of meditation where things can drop in and you'll start to know what is for you and what not. Like you might think, oh, I really want to work with crystals.
Mm.
But if all you see is a pretty rock, and you don't get anything else from it, then chances are for you it's a pretty rock and you're not going to get anything else from it. So what else would work? Do you want to work with water? Do you want to work with something unseen, such as
Yeah.
dragons? Like there's so many different places you can go, and it's not for anybody to tell you what that is because we don't know. You have to find
Yeah.
your own. We don't know.
I was going to say, because, yeah, right now, so there's a lot of things out there and you're who you are and you have your value. And it's good for you to understand what your value is because that's what's going to help you going forward. And so that's why we're saying, like, listen to the songs or poems or TV shows, even, or conversations you've had with people, and anything that's stuck to you right now, or that keeps coming over and over and over again to you. Maybe those are your signs to what you need to do and revealing deeper truths about yourself. Like, I mean, even in the material sense, right? Anything you obsess over is probably telling you something about yourself.
It is, but it can also kind of lead from one place to the next place
Mm-hmm.
to the next place. And here's the thing that I'd love to pass on because I believe it to be true, and that is you can resist as much as you like. It will make you take the path one way or another. So, you will understand what is happening at some point. You will see it and you will be affected by it. The question is just, are you willing or are you going to get dragged in?
Yes.
Because it's happening one way or the other. That's
It's
basically the end point to that. And I just picked up another dragon
right.
card here, not the tarot, but the other one. And it says, "We dragons often evolve, moving through the gateways of life. And now we come to help ease you through the door into the next epoch of your life."
Mm.
I think that's pretty on point.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
some people love to play with cards with different divination tools, whether it's runes, pendulum, And I think that can be such an interesting practice. It's very seductive. You can be really pulled into it and spend a lot of time with it. And here's the thing, resist the temptation, I would say, to keep playing with the pendulum until tells you what you want.
Right.
Because that's inaccurate, and now you've forged an uneasy alliance that's based on falsehood, and it won't serve you well.
Well, that's the thing, right? Like constantly seeking supernatural guidance on the same topic over and over and over again, especially in a short period of time,
Uh-huh.
you're going to get inaccuracies at some point because it's just like we already gave you your information. Why do you keep trying to pull? Why do you keep, asking for stuff? And it's when I teach someone how to use a divination tool, I usually tell them to be very clear with the spirits they work with that you're practicing and that you're just trying to get the understanding the flow of how it works. And so, if they want to give you any wisdom, to give you wisdom, and usually keep your questions either vague or like do a daily reading, not because you want to know what's happening every day, but just to give you a sense so that you can get a better understanding. But I don't normally recommend like pulling cards every day normally because you should live your life.
And that's, yes, that's so important because, like I said, it's seductive and you can be pulled into,
Mhm.
wait a minute, I can't decide that until I've, swung my pendulum
Right.
or pulled a card, or, that is a misuse of the tools. It is an overuse of the tools. And then you just end up in the realms of silliness because your intention is off. And that makes all the difference to what
Well,
you
yeah.
receive. I can go days without pulling cards and don't even think about it. And then there are other times, like for this podcast, Daniel just has my curiosity going. And for some reason, I bought out 3 decks of cards. One is the Tarot of Dragons, and it's beautiful. One is, let me see, Dragon Magic, which is cards for energy and empowerment. And then the other one is the Black Tarot. That was the other one I picked out. And this one is, it says, enter the darkness of the Black Tarot, where sparks of light punctuate the midnight realm. I don't pull those cards out very often, but I think I'm
Yeah.
just going to shuffle those for a bit now and see what we get.
Well, for a lot of people, that's going to be their world for a little bit. There's going to be some darkness.
Oh, we got a lot of shadow stuff coming up.
Yeah.
Woo, boy, do we ever.
Right.
And, if you don't work with it, then you're missing a huge part of the equation. You gotta
Yeah.
you gotta work with the shadow side. That's kind of it's like saying I'll have day but no night, thank you.
Hmm. Yeah, it
Uh,
doesn't work. There's and it's funny. I had, can't believe they're making me share this, but I didn't write it down, but I had come up with a short story about a planet that didn't spin, so it had day on one side and night on the other side. And basically, I broke it down into, yeah, there's all these wonderful things about the day, and there's wonderful things about the night, but you need the both because night is where, to be more poetic about it, night is where you have your romantic tryst, your doing things in secret, your you time, basically. And then on the day side, well, there's light all the time, so everyone can see what you're doing. So there's warmth, and there's a bigger sense of community because everyone can see each other. But you don't get those moments of introspection. You don't get the moments of being just you, either by yourself or you just with one other person, having those deep bonding moments.
this is interesting. I have 2 cards. They do not wish to be separated.
Oh no, interesting.
Yep. All right. Oh, 3 cards. I have the Hierophant, the Emperor, and the King of Wands.
You know,
And they are dark, dark, dark. See how shadowy they are? Daniel
yeah.
can see them.
Oh yeah, they're pretty nice actually too.
Uh-huh.
So
Oh,
basically, that's 3 cards about wielding some kind of power and authority.
well, well, well. There we go. So that's where you're going to find the power and the authority, I
Yeah,
think.
because usually the male cards, you like the king or the Hierophant or the High Priest is about, or the magician, whatever. It's usually about you building your wisdom and your authority. Like I said, I don't have the cards memorized, but from what I remember of them,
Uh-huh.
I tried to pick up the patterns that come with them. And they got a book that's actually pretty good for breaking them down like that. So
Cool. Well, you have to share that book information with me so I can get myself one.
yeah, I'll send you the whatever IBM number, whatever it's called
Uh-huh.
there, in the
ISBN.
title. But yeah,
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. No,
actually,
it's
it's actually a
interesting because
workbook. It's a workbook, and it actually encourages you to make your own cards while you're going to, so that you can associate with the cards better. It actually gives you
nice.
space too to draw your own card in,
Oh, I like that. Yeah, that's very cool.
and it does word association and stuff like that with the cards. And
Fun. So, what you're saying is you can make your own tools. Ooh,
yeah,
that's radical.
well, that's the thing. I'll say it right now, right? That's the big thing about divination tools. Divination tools are only there to really get you used to the flow. And sometimes when you're confused about the flow, it's good to it's kind of get you outside of yourself because you're looking at imagery instead of just your own senses.
Absolutely. I love that.
Yeah, because
And
it's why I still use it.
there's a book of symbols that
Mm-hmm.
I think is a really good one to get to because we symbols are what you make them mean,
Mm-hmm.
but having some sort of guidance as to, go check those paths over there kind of
Mm-hmm.
thing can be very helpful. And there's a huge book of symbols. I'll find it shortly and tell you what it's, the title and everything, other than the Book of Symbols, which is the title.
Right.
But I'm sure there's more than one out there with that name. But that can be very helpful with interpreting dreams, for example. And I know, Danielle, you have been having a whole bunch of interesting dreams lately, as have I, and they are, whew, there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on in those dreams.
Yeah.
Holy smokes.
But it's funny, talking about that because like part of the tone of this podcast is that we're just really much talking about practical things, but yet you can't escape the mystical side of it because we're talking about, basically omens, portents, dreams, you know, dealing with spirits. But yet we're still kind of doing the bulk of it on just practical stuff to help you move through the next thing. But oh yeah, there's this whole mystical world that you also have to deal with.
Well, that's the thing. This is where we are, and sometimes, you move in and out, right? Of it wouldn't be healthy or useful to live fully in the spirit. You can't be in the spirit realm fully because you're here physically. But
Right.
I mean, that's kind of the point too, is if everything you do is focused on the spiritual, then you're missing the point of being here. The key is to tap into that source and then work with it here.
Yeah.
That's why you're here, is to be able to do that. And this is the unique opportunity you have to be able to do that. So there's some interesting paths ahead. And this is the last card I'm going to pull because it
Okay.
says it is. And it's justice.
I can't see it very clearly because it's a bit.
No, because it's all shadowy, but there
Yeah.
is an eye with tears. And
Mm,
then there is two hands. One has white light and one has darkness.
right. Justice, if I remember, and probably while you're reading, is about making decisions because you got that balance usually in it.
So we have some cards here that seem to have fit with the things we're going through. I mean,
Mm,
Justice literally said, "I am the last card," so I'm not pulling more today.
right.
And I don't usually sit playing with three different decks and what have you, but that was what was required for today. So that's what you got. And it doesn't mean I'm trying to end a podcast or anything. It just
I
means
know.
that's what we got to. So I just looked it up because I wanted to get this
Hmm.
one accurate. It said justice represents detached decision making, logic, and the power of knowledge outside emotions.
Mm,
100%. Justice as an archetype is the 11th teacher for the fool, showing us the importance of objectivity and analysis for determining the outcomes and making important decisions. Life can be fair if we act with integrity. The symbolism on the card, I kind of gave a brief description, but it's an ancient being with a cycloptic eye, holding light and darkness in each hand while tears fall. It weeps over the imbalance between the two energies which continually demand reconciliation. The celestial being can never rest. Ta-da!
Yeah. Well, that goes back to my whole thing with Puff the Magic Dragon, because I sometimes feel that way.
That you can't rest?
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing is we're not here to rest.
No.
You might
It was
want to.
funny. I was having a conversation with a friend of mine and we were talking about this and we were talking about reincarnation. I said, like, I'm not coming back for a while. I need a break.
Yeah, you think so now, but you know the
Yeah.
time is different, so.
Well, that's the thing, right? We've discussed this before, but yeah, it's the just because you're going through something difficult right now doesn't mean that, you get over it and then you're going to feel the same way, which again is advice, which is also very nestled in the material and the human, because you'll get the
Yes.
same thing. Yeah.
And there are areas where we cross over, right?
Hmm.
You know, it works here, it works there. But that's, I think that's the key to finding where the connections are between the two, right? And yes, there'll be naysayers out there that say, oh yeah, you can make anything connect if you want to. And I suppose you can, but you'll know what's real and what isn't
Hmm.
just by the fallout, if you will, or the response, if you will, it's going to go a certain way. Like when I do human design,
Hmm.
I will tell people according to their design where their flow is and where it isn't. And there is a way of knowing when you're in flow and when you're not. So if you're any kind of generator, which 7 out of 10 of you listening will be, then assuming we have 10, but anyway, 7 out of 10 will be generators of some kind. So when you are trying to go against your natural flow, you will be frustrated. It won't work. It's not happening, no matter how hard you try. It's that kind of frustration, frustrated from succeeding, but it's also the frustration of, oh my God, this is so annoying, and why is it such hard work? And the annoyance kind of frustration. But nothing you can do will change it. And there's your clue that you are trying to go against your flow. You're going against how you are made to operate on this plane. So you don't have to believe it, you'll experience it. And I infinitely prefer for people to go find out for themselves, oh, how does this work? Does this work? And what does it look like? Because then you know something that you can't unknow.
Yeah. And it's funny because it made me think of, so you listeners may remember our first guest, Willa McQuarrie. Well, we're related, so we keep in touch, but she's had that part of her journey where she realizes now how different everything feels, and how you start to notice the difference between something that's actually a message and something that isn't. It's very interesting to hear her continued journey. So I get texts from time to time where she's like, "Oh my God, I can't believe it's this, and I can't believe that's happening. I can't believe it's like this. Oh my God, I can't look at people the same way." It's like, yeah. I said, enjoy the honeymoon phase, because then there's going to be the when you settle into it and you start seeing the all the things you thought were one thing and they're not, they're another, and then you start getting to those brooding introspections. And
Yeah, and that's a key time to make sure that you're not making it about you
yes,
because you're only you for a while, you know. That's
that's true.
that's the other thing is you're just here for a while, and the things that you've experienced and how you viewed them have shaped who you are today, and that's just for now. Like you're not, we somehow have this Disney version of, sorry, Disney, I don't know why you keep coming up. But
Mm.
anyway, we have this idealized version of, oh, well, when so and so dies, or as people are fond of saying, passes away,
Yes.
which is such a anyway, when people say that, they typically envisage that the person is as the person was, and they're
Right.
frozen in time somehow. But I don't believe that is accurate. Um, I don't think it's desirable. I mean, if you had an incarnation on this planet during, oh, I don't know, ancient Rome, would you want to be stuck there? Or would you want to be evolving in the spirit world as well as in this one? So it's kind of an interesting, you can't really have an answer to any of that, but sometimes when you catch yourself thinking that everybody's sitting on a cloud somewhere looking the way they
Mm.
looked before, know that that's just it's fantasy. It's not actually
Yeah.
real, and nor would it be desirable.
Well, that's true. And for those of you who like ghost hunting shows and paranormal stuff like that, there is a theory that goes that ghosts have 400 years max, and then they move on.
Interesting. I don't know that theory, but I think
I
ghosts
don't
or
think it's a well-known theory.
I
I heard it just postulated because the Tower of England doesn't have the same activity it used to have, which is what the number is based on.
okay, I don't know that I'd base it on one thing though.
Yeah.
It's an interesting thought, but what how I've always viewed it is if the person who is no
Tower of
longer
England or Tower of
is,
London?
I think you mean Tower of London,
Yeah. I was
but
trying to think. Once I said it, I was like, hold on.
the person who's no longer physical, if they're still in touch with you, there's a concern or something to complete, or there's a reason, but they're not going to hang around in a house for like however many hundreds of years because that's where they were, and they're still waiting for somebody to find the person that bumped them off or something. Like
Right.
it would not be important by then. Like it's long gone. And the spirit has stuff to do. It's not hanging around, to wait and see if you ate your peanut butter sandwich today or not. It's not, I don't think it's like that. I can't prove that or disprove it, so I'm just telling you my view, how I
Yeah. Well, I'll
how
put it
I
like
see
this,
it to
right?
be.
I'll put it to you like this. Whatever you had to deal with in the lifetime you incarnated in that led you to be a ghost, once you've dealt with your stuff, you move on. Because, like I said, right, I shared the story of my friend's father who was a shaman. Like, he was done. He was ready to go the minute he died. He was like, I'm done with this identity.
Mhm. And I think, yeah, and people who go quite quickly are usually in that space where they're
Like,
like,
he hung
oh, okay,
around a
thanks
bit.
for that.
Yeah. He hung around a bit, like, to make sure his family was okay. So he would
Exactly.
show up as who he was,
Uh-huh.
but he was like, I am, I'm done with this identity, you know?
Uh-huh. Yeah, and the person may hang around in that
Hmm.
frame for a while if you need them to,
Right. Well, that
until
was the
you
thing, right?
consider
He
that you no
stayed.
longer need them to.
Yeah. He stayed as long as he was needed, but he was ready to go. He wasn't going to
Uh-huh.
hang around and haunt for forever.
Yeah, again, we tend to think that fiction is sometimes real, and
Mm.
those kinds of
Well,
stories are just
yeah.
straight up fiction.
And that was part of I think we talked about it during the episode when Mulla was on, but I know I've had ongoing conversations with her, and I'm like, all the stuff you see in like how spiritual stuff works in movies and magic, that's metaphor. It's not actually like, well, I'll give it this one. How much effort do you think it would be to revive someone from the dead? How much energy do you think you'd have to invest spiritually to revive someone from the dead?
Oh,
I'm not talking
probably.
like someone who's been dead for 1,000 years where you have to basically rebuild the body from scratch, but someone who recently dies. Like all you got to do is repair the damage that killed them and just remind the spirit to go back into the body to reconnect with the body. But when you watch, whenever when you're watching a fantasy show or something like that, and they try to bring someone back to life, it's either like the person who does the ritual or the spells like drained of their life and they're half dead, and it's like it shouldn't take that much to bring a person back. All you gotta do is remind them, go back in your body, we'll repair the damage that happened to you, and you're good.
Yeah, I wouldn't mess with that myself.
No. But what I mean is like, the metaphor is you have to basically give an equal exchange of, you have to almost give up your life to bring a life back. But from a practical, for lack of a better way of saying, a physics perspective, all you got to do is repair the wound that severed the life, you know, because you're not dead for a long time, really. Your cells are still alive for a while. So you have a certain ability
Yeah,
to
we'd
come
have
back
to
to life.
we'd have to explore that one a little bit because I'm
Yeah.
just running through all the different ways that people die.
Yeah.
But I can see that in certain circumstances.
But I bring it up
Others
because
would
it's
be more
one of those
comfortable.
things where for us to bring someone back to life, that would be, oh my God, that would be awesome. And you would think it should require a huge sacrifice to bring someone back. But any sacrifice of that magnitude would just be metaphorical, or would be whatever beings performing the actual resuscitation would be them asking for it and not a practical requirement, is what I'm trying to get at. You wouldn't have to do a huge practical requirement of almost someone else giving up their life just to bring someone back, especially if it's someone who's been recently dead and their cells of their most of their body's cells are still going.
Could we just make a disclaimer here that we are not
Yeah.
suggesting necrophilia,
No,
and please
absolutely not.
don't go digging people up and stuff. That would be not cool. Um, that's not what we do on this planet.
No.
It's not how it works.
No, in fact, I was going to say that accept the passing of someone. Let them go, let them be passed. Because odds are they don't want to come back.
Yeah, that is typically so. Working as a nurse, I have often had the experience of knowing when somebody's got 24 hours or so to
Mm,
go because they show you that they're done and they really are like they are done, and how you care for that person needs to change because of the stage they're at. So for example, we this is where you confuse the physical and the spiritual because somebody will be they have decided that they're done, and relatives will keep trying to feed them food, for example, and they get
mm,
upset when the person doesn't eat, but the person doesn't need food now. It's not where they're going. They're not repairing and rebuilding anything, and they need to not be doing that actually. It's a distraction. And as I mentioned earlier, we have so many distractions in so many places. It's and that is another distraction. But other nurses too could see this. You
mm.
could see when somebody was ready, when they made a decision. And sometimes they'd even tell you. But you can just see it. It's hard to define, but it's easy to see once you know what you're looking at.
Yeah, well, yeah. Yeah, I was going to say I brought it up because I want people to have kind of an understanding of the cost of doing certain things is not what you see when you watch movies because those things are just there for a narrative. They're just there to put the story along. You like to get actual things done requires certain appropriate amount of energy, but some things don't require the energy you think it is just because of its emotional impact on you. You think it should be more.
Yep, that's very
There.
true.
That's also very practical, right? Like if you do something wrong, as an example, that you think you did something wrong to someone, depending on what your mindset is like, you might think you might have to like, flog yourself for like 6 days straight to get forgiveness when all you really had to do was say, I'm sorry.
Yes,
And
yes.
that's very much very different expenditures of energy, right? The I'm sorry, but meaning it, very little energy to put into it, just as long as your intent is there, versus causing yourself bodily harm for 6 days straight. That requires a lot of energy and a lot of effort.
So that's the difference between the perceptions and how you weigh those perceptions, right? It's how you value things. And
Yeah,
that spreads all over the place as well, which is so interesting. How
yeah,
you value something will affect your decisions.
right. And so this evolves kind of the point to now bring us to the point of you don't have to beat yourself up to be spiritual. You don't have to beat yourself up to know who you are. Like you don't have to take a 10-year journey and go on top of mountains in Tibet and sit there with gurus to become a spiritual person. You can if that's what helps you. and you want to do it, and that's the only way you can focus on it.
Yeah, honestly, the Chinese would probably pull you out of your cave, but
Right.
right,
Well, there you go. Even more effort.
right. Yeah, no, that's good points, good points.
Yeah.
So I guess where we're going with this episode is to try and link the sort of journey that we're on that's unseen,
Mm-hmm.
knowing that we're all in the physical journey and you see that, but how can you sort of see the path between the two?
Yes.
And the events outside of you that actually have more meaning than they might superficially appear.
Something. Yes. Yeah.
How to navigate that.
Right.
Because you do have to navigate it. Ignoring it is also a choice, and you can't ignore the consequences of your choice. So, as I said earlier, sticking your head in the sand isn't a viable option for any length of time. It's not going to mean that anything passes you by. Um, or if you think about it, how would you be okay if you were just hiding? That's a temporary solution to anything, isn't it?
Well, and that's the thing too, right? If you're hiding, then you're also not aware of what's happening.
Right.
It's actually one of my, I don't know if I want to call it a failure or success of myself or whatever, or good or bad, but I cannot hide for very long. I need to know what's going on. It would be like, when you hear stories of you're up on the Serengeti and you see like the gazelles or whatever, and they actually sleep near the lions because they know where the lions are. There's no mystery of the lions are going to sneak up on them out of nowhere because they know where the lions are. So I kind of live more with that philosophy of you might as well know where things are and what's going on, even if it puts you in a what appears to be a situation of danger. You're not really because you have awareness of what's happening around you. Something like that.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, I get the idea.
Well, it's like because you see a lot of birds, right? They don't have a lot of ground predators. So birds will, so even when a predator is going through an area, the birds are sitting in their trees ready. They can know they can fly off at any time and they know where the predator is. Whereas if they didn't know where the predator is, they'd be worried. So it kind of takes away the anxiousness when you're actually exposed to where the danger is. I kind of equate like, in horror movies,
Mhm.
it's a lot scarier when you don't know everything. But once they reveal either the monster or the killer, your brain can start making a plan. This is basically how I would
Mhm.
equate it to. You can
Well,
start
the
making decisions. You're not lost trying to figure out what's happening. You can start making decisions.
the human brain does not do well with the unknown. It's outside of our comfort zone. It's outside of the safety zone.
Right.
And so, if you want to scare somebody, throw something unknown at them, and that will win every time, even if it's pretty innocuous. This is why, if you think of occult, the word
Mm.
occult means hidden.
Right.
And that scares the life out of people. I mean, sometimes the responses are fascinating. You can say one small thing, or I don't know, wear a pentagram or something, and people will lose their ever-loving minds.
Yeah.
And it's like, why? What do you think this does? What do you think is going to happen here? Or here's one of my favorites is when somebody says, "Oh, I don't believe in witchcraft." No? Could I just have a couple of nail clippings and a little
Yeah.
bit of hair? And you just kind of no, just put them in this bag,
Hmm.
something like that. And meanwhile, they're probably running as fast as they can in a different direction, telling you you're a freak.
Right.
Why? Because just did something unexpected. The outcome is unknown, and they don't want any part of it, right? You just scared the living daylights out of them.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't suggest doing that willy-nilly because you might do it to somebody who is a witch and they might
Yeah.
just throw it back at you. So be careful. But the the premise is sound.
It kind of makes me think of when we were talking about don't slay your dragons because your dragons are important. They help you learn.
Hmm.
Kind of brought me back to that idea. But for a second, I thought about, you know, you never know when you encounter a witch hunter.
Hmm. Well, that's true, although I don't know that there's too many of those at the moment because everybody's
Yeah.
so distracted.
Well, that's the thing. That's why I didn't bring it up because I'm like, do those even exist anymore?
Not as much because they're too distracted and they've got their own issues. So yeah, not too worried about that one, honestly.
Hmm.
There's too many other things between any of that and where we're at right now.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say actually, it's probably not even something to worry about at this point. I think there's too much going to be happening that those kind
No,
of
you just want to be careful not to smart mouth another witch. That's
yeah,
all.
yeah,
That's
it's probably your
that's the tread carefully bit.
mm, yeah. It's funny. The episode's not over, and they're not telling me it's over. They're just taking a pause for some reason.
Okay.
It's interesting. You know what? I'm going to draw a card.
Okay.
All right, let's see. All right, then my dragon friend is going to pull it. Let's see what he does. He's actually very, very precise in his movements when he pulls a card. There's not usually me having to go very deep or very far. He usually picks a card right away. So let's see. The Hierophant. This is
Oh,
a very
second one
lovely one
today.
in this deck. I don't know if it'll show up.
Yeah, I see it.
Yeah,
That's the
it's
second time we've had that today.
yeah, and this is the Tarot del Toro, so it's a nice and gruesome looking thing. Which is an important thing, right? Your divination tools, you should pick ones that suit you because
Yes.
the more you're I should say the more you're enamored with your deck, the better the flow between you and your deck. Hierophant is what, 5 in the journey. Well, let's see what it's about. So, yes, the Hierophant comes to us to connect us to the divine without losing our grounded place. And that's all I'm told to read.
Okay. Well, we've had that twice today, so.
So it's seek the divine, but do not lose your connection to this world.
And I think we said that in the beginning too, right?
Yeah, we've said that in a few episodes. Take care of yourself, even though you're going through these journeys.
Yeah, because the whole point of being here is that you're in a physical form, so you kind of have to look after that. It's something that actually I haven't mentioned the Buddha yet today, so here we go.
Oh,
In the Buddhist journey, there is a phase where he's looking for enlightenment and he's really trying to find it. And how often do you search desperately for something and only find it when you stop searching? Um,
that's right.
as was the case with him. On his path to searching, he decided to go into the whole starvation thing because he saw a guru doing that. So he
Hmm.
figured, oh, okay, so that's what I need to do. And I think the story is sort of 3 grains of rice a day or something like that. It
Hmm.
was starvation mode. And there are some Buddha statues that you can see. You can look them up on the internet if you want, where he looks like a starving form, ribs
Right.
showing. You can see the spine and everything in a seated form. And anyway, after I think a month of this is the time frame given, it's not really important. After some time of doing this, he realized, no, that's actually not doing it either. That's not getting me to the place. And so he'd had a life of excess, being a prince. He'd had a life of starvation, of the opposite, the lack. And then he found, oh yes, the middle path.
Mm.
That is what you seek. Go for the middle path. Not too much, not too little.
Right.
Just, navigate through those distractions and go straight down the center. And that is the Buddhist way, right? Is the
Right.
middle path. It's
You
what
know
they,
what?
if you know nothing about Buddhism, you'll probably know that.
Hmm. You know what? This makes me think of, and I'm going to do a pop culture reference. So, Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon.
Hmm.
So, the main character played by Chow Yun Fat. So, for those of you, I don't know if anyone's watched it recently, but his whole thing in the movie is that he did his whole life as a warrior, chasing honor, chasing, all these spiritual things. And when he went to do his final deep, 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 he went to do his long journey to do his deep meditation. And what did he discover? That wasn't the point. What he discovered was this whole thing that he had been fighting was his love for Michelle Yeoh's character. That
Right.
was what he was missing. When he went into the void, so to speak, to see, he realized he had messed up big time. In all his search and all his trying to be honorable and being all this warrior and heroic, he missed love. He missed his actual reason for being. And so the whole movie starts with him coming back from that journey and trying to get rid of his warrior ways you know, to pursue love. Mind you, the movie, of course, doesn't allow him to do it, but and spoilers, he dies, but never having fulfilled his purpose. Well, I mean, in an obvious way. Sorry, in an obvious way, because he does reveal his love. The love bond does get connected. It's just that he passes on before they can really do what you'd expect from a love bond.
That
They didn't
was
settle
nice.
down and get together and live together.
Right. It was unfulfilled.
Yes. But I always think about that. It's one of the things that comes to my mind whenever I think about people going on, oh, I got to go meditate, I got to do these great journeys. And I'm like, listen, not only have I seen this in a movie, my personal life does reflect, you can't look at things that way and expect to be spiritual. You have to do your own path. That was a lesson I've been constantly taught over and over again. And it was interesting to see a movie that also shared that concept,
Hmm.
especially in such a dramatic way. Because you're taking literally a figure who's supposed to be spiritual and is supposed to be the epitome of all these things. And it's like, yeah, no, this wasn't right for me.
Yeah. And I think basically again with the it isn't what you think it is.
Right.
So
Yes.
you think you
I
got
think
it
that movie
down,
epitomizes that. This this whole view of spirituality that you're trying to achieve and trying to perfect is not what you think it is.
right? And I think you and I have the same thing. It's probably not what we think it is, but
Right.
at least we know that.
Well, yeah. And it helps when
So
you can sense the flow.
it does. And we can only do what we can do. We can do what
Right.
we can work on. And it's just I don't think there's a right or wrong. There's just a case of uncovering what it really is.
Yes. And you
So
use humor, right? Uh,
ideally, yeah.
everyone's here for a reason, and sometimes it's just to serve as a bad example.
Well, we all do that from time to time.
Yeah. But it's those ideas like you're expecting these lofty things, and for some there will be lofty things. Well, it's all really, if you're looking at it as the truth of who you are, then it is lofty, regardless of what it is.
Yeah.
Maybe you existed for that one moment, and that was your everything, and everything up till then was to teach you that for that one, to be you prepared for that one moment.
That's a lot to wrap your mind around.
It is, and I'll be honest with you, I don't think a person's life is just for one moment, but I'll use the exaggeration to help drive the point home.
Hmm. And time is relative. It
Mm.
depends on a bunch of things. Um, yeah, I'm not getting clarity on that one, so I'm just going to leave it where it went.
Well, it's for the listeners then.
Yeah, I
I've
guess
found
so.
that over the years, it's not mine to share if I can't get clarity on it. I can introduce the idea, but then it's
Hmm.
mine. Like, because if I'm given the idea to share, but yet I have no clarity on it, then it's like, hey, it's not for me to explain it to you. It's for you to internalize what was said and to go on that journey for yourself. And as I was
Yeah,
telling you, I mean, you can
I
come and
would
talk to me about it and I'll help you, but it's still
I
your
would
journey.
love to hear who got something from that. I'd love to hear what it is if they're interested to share.
Mm. I think for a long time, or a long time, there'll be a period of time for sure where there's no responses for anything because people still have to hit those moments. Those
Mhm.
aha moments, those eureka moments haven't hit yet.
Sometimes it can be years later too. It's not even a matter of weeks or days. Sometimes it can be years. So
Yes.
something will land. And yeah, if you can find us, tell us.
Mm,
Be very cool to know.
right. As I like to say, right, I use me and my brother as an example. It took me 30 years to figure out in the movie Army of Darkness that when the character Nash says, shop smart, shop S smart, it didn't dawn on me S smart, smart. The
Right.
slogan was the name of the store. Because I was thinking of, the store Kmart. We don't have
Uh-huh.
it in Canada anymore. I don't know if they're still in the States, but
No,
that's what I
yeah,
thought.
but
Even though that was the point of it, right? It was imitating a box store, Kmart. But the slogan never dawned on me until like 30 years later.
wow.
And the
Okay.
same thing, my brother for the song The Gambler. It never dawned on him this was life advice. He thought he was literally talking to him about cards.
There you go.
And that took him 20 some years.
That's so funny.
So yeah,
I
it
think,
doesn't necessarily click in right away. Sometimes it'll take time. I'm using
yeah,
those examples because they're funny rather
I
than
think we all have
serious.
examples like that, right? Where it's just, I even see it on the internet sometimes where somebody says, I was today years old when
Yeah,
I discovered that, and there's some strange thing that you're just like, oh my God, I didn't know that either. What? Or as you would say, tabernacle. I did
tabarnak,
not
yeah.
know that.
So it must have been a while since you heard that expression. Just for people knowing, I wrote something on Facebook and I used that expression, and Michaela was like, "Oh, I haven't heard that in a long time."
Right? No, that's been a while. That cracked me up.
Yeah.
So thought I'd
And yet
mention
it's
it.
pretty much every day in my vocabulary.
That's so funny.
Oh, that reminds me. So, given the Puff the Magic Dragon story, I've always threatened to start calling Michaela Puff. Although that
Uh,
hasn't come out yet, it's not flowing naturally.
uh-huh. Yeah, I'm not feeling puff.
Yeah. As much as I want to do it, I'm not feeling it either.
Yeah. Plus, we have a character in the news a fair bit lately who's, P. Diddy,
Yes, yes, that's
also
true.
known as Puff, and I definitely am not feeling that. So,
Yeah. Don't want that association.
not really. No, that's a little too shadow for me. Not my shadows to work with.
Huh. It's my turn to draw another card. It's funny because it feels like the episode's going to come to an end, but it's like, no, you're just picking a card, and we're not telling you
Yeah,
anything.
I'm getting that it's coming to an end, but
Yeah.
you know,
Well, we can end on the Seven of Wands.
okay. And we had the Ten of Wands earlier.
Yeah. So five, if I recall, is the that's when everything goes to turmoil. It's that midway through the journey, you've learned a lot of stuff, and now you're in turmoil from it. And then six is kind of starting, if I recall correctly, six is kind of starting to recover from that. So seven, look at it real quickly here. Then, and it was one. So no, the seven of wands displays perseverance. At this point in our progression, we are steadfast in our beliefs and willing to fight for those beliefs. Yeah. When we see this card, we are asked to stand up for ourselves. We will earn the respect of others by refusing to back down and standing firm in what we know to be true.
And you said Seven of Wands, right?
Yeah,
Hmm. So I thought I'd look that up
right,
for the shadow cards.
right.
And what I get is you are right. Hold your ground. Any lack of integrity will be your downfall.
Oh my God, that's an awesome message to end this episode.
Isn't it?
Yeah.
That's what I just got. Yep. And the symbolism is a figure in the center of the vortex lights the way for others and keeps the dark matter from collapsing.
Yeah. So you
I
heard that,
just mic
listeners?
drop.
Not only is it a good idea to be yourself, the times are demanding it.
Any lack of integrity will be your downfall.
Yeah,
Oh, I think that is so apropos. Ooh,
it is. Yeah, we have to end on that one. That one is,
that
you
was
kind of
it.
did the mic drop gesture there. Oh, it's perfect.
That was it. That was the one.
Yeah. And also a very short episode by our standards.
Yeah, standards, yes.
But the length doesn't matter. The message matters.
It does.
Be yourself. All right. Now they're pushing me out the door here. So once again, I'm Daniel Dubois.
I'm Michaela Gaffinstone.
Until next time.
Until next time.